You know, the stuff that I use will work for anybody that will work with it. It'll work anywhere. It will work on the streets of New York City. Sometimes the press will ask me, Reverend Ike, what is this stuff that you use? Sometimes I simply call it mind power. Let me hear you say mind power. And here again, I'm always reminding you that mind power is God power. Say that with me. Mind power is God power. There's no difference. So this is not something that you've never heard about before. You may not have heard it in this way. Visiting with us today is a young man from Los Angeles, California, who's going to come to the podium in just a moment. I first noticed this young man before I knew who he was, because a couple of times I saw a young man floating down the streets in Beverly Hills and Hollywood in a very beautiful regal red and black Rolls Royce. And of course you know that I have a weakness for Rolls Royces. And so I noticed this very beautiful Rolls Royce several times on the streets of Beverly Hills and Los Angeles. And I said, I don't know who's driving that car, but it must be a very self-directed person. It must be a very successful and prosperous person. And here again, successful, prosperous people have always interested me. Successful, prosperous people have always fascinated me. And I'm going to repeat to you again some words which I gave you at the money conditioning meeting on Friday night, and they will bless you here on television. You will become whatever you're fascinated with. You always become whatever you're fascinated with. And here again, this is the law of mind. If you become fascinated by poverty, you become poor. You become fascinated with sickness and the reports of all kinds of diseases, you will become sick. Whatever you become fascinated with, you'll get it and it'll get you. This is the law of mind, and it works with anything. So do not become fascinated with what you do not want. If you want to be wealthy, become fascinated with wealth. Become fascinated with wealthy people. If you want to be successful and prosperous, become fascinated with successful, prosperous people. And I've always been fascinated with successful, prosperous people. Go to your library, read about successful people. Read about prosperous people. When you read the newspaper, skip over the news about the recession and the depression and read about somebody who just made millions and millions. Instead of becoming so caught up in this idea of economic cutback, become fascinated with those people who are still living well and enjoying the joy of living. So back to this young man who's coming now to speak to us for a moment, and I with him. I was fascinated because he appeared successful and prosperous. And I got to meet him, and he became one of my associates in Los Angeles at my series of teaching meetings. Let's welcome now Mr. Tom Cross of Los Angeles. Give him a great big New York welcome. Good to have you in New York.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Cross here is president and founder of Crosstrack, which is an entertainment advertising agency in Los Angeles. And girls, he is single and free game. Tom, sometimes I really wonder if you work, because you have so much leisure time. And that's wonderful, because, you know, it goes to show you that you don't really have to indulge in the drudgery of life to be successful and prosperous. But I know that he has his business because I've been there, you know. But like me, he has learned how to use his mind. And you know what I say, and I hope that this can get on television, the more you learn to work your mind, the less you have to work your behind. Now, Cross-Track, your organization, exactly what does it do?
Well, we produce radio commercials for the entertainment industry. When I say entertainment industry, we're speaking in terms of movies and record companies. Record companies primarily, because it's a very highly specialized type of business. What I do, I write, produce, assemble, and I voice commercials as well. And we've had some very successful commercial campaigns, and the reason why I think we're successful is because I can do, or we can do, commercials a lot less than the average advertising agency. We can, in turn, save the record company a great deal of money. And all companies are interested in saving money, regardless of how much they make, how constant their income. They're concerned very much on saving money. There's one company in particular, I think last year they grossed something like $33.5 million. And they are very much interested in saving money, and this is where I came in.
And you do business with them?
A great deal of business. They're having 46 album releases this year, and we're doing all the commercials on them, all of them.
I'm not going to tell you how old this young man is exactly, but he's still in his 20s.
You're kind.
And I admire him because he's an example of what we're always talking about here. A good example of self-direction. And this is a part of what this ministry teaches, self-direction. Also, this young man for several years was a leading disc jockey in Los Angeles on one of the leading Los Angeles stations. But he has made it so big, and he is making so much money with all of the big multi-million-dollar companies, little of which he just let out of the bag a moment ago, that he is no longer doing DJ work. He is just dealing with the multi-million-dollar companies. I asked him to be here in New York with us today as an example of a young man who has found his own self-direction, his own self-sufficiency, his own self-discipline. And in finding it, he has gone beyond dependency. You know, there are too many people in a state of dependency today. People who have the attitude that the world owes me a living. Let me tell you something, nobody owes you anything but you. And the only worthwhile thing that you're really ever going to get is what you give yourself by means of working with the presence of God in you. This young man, Tom Cross, could have taken an attitude like myself. He came from the South, born and raised in the South. He could have said, he could have been sitting on a log along with me somewhere in the South saying, poor black me. I'll just depend on society. But this young man found his own self-direction. And I like having him for a friend because, very frankly, to tell you the truth, I like to have rich friends. It really feels good. Tom, I want to thank you especially also for helping me in an associate position in our ministry there in Los Angeles at the session of classes which I've just concluded. And since you've been around this ministry for a bit now, do you get anything out of it?
I've gotten quite a bit out of it. Excuse me. Let me say that I've been what I am, or who I am all along. What the Reverend has done for me in particular, to be honest with you, he's provided a definition. I can remember some time ago when I was a television cameraman at a station in Rockford, Illinois. I started off as a cameraman, graduated to audio engineering, and then I outgrew that market of 80,000 people, and I moved to Kansas City. But to make a long story short, what I did, being a cameraman, was my job to position the props. And this particular prop was a Rolls Royce, and we were doing a commercial for a federal savings and loan company in Rockford, Illinois. And I had the opportunity to position the Rolls, also position the lighting and spray the dulling spray and what have you on it to keep it from shining, the whole bit. And just sitting inside of the car, I imagined myself with one. Which, the point is, I imagined it and I thought about it, and I says, I can see myself driving one, but I never really knew the real meaning of it. So what the meaning of that is visualization, but I never knew that. But I knew that I could see myself in it.
Isn't that wonderful? Because as he indicated, you know, we are always working with mind. Remember that. You're always working with mind. And let's put this in the first person together. I am always working with mind. Together again. I am always working with mind. You're always working with mind, even if you do not know the science of it. But you see, it is good when we know the science of mind, or mind science, however you want to brand it. And so Tom has just given us an example of what has helped him to achieve some of his success, and one of the things that he wanted. You know, many times when people see wealth and riches, they don't identify themselves with it. Sometimes people will see other wealthy people and other representations of material wealth, and they will say, well, that's for them. That's for the rich people. But this young man, when he saw that Rolls Royce while he was a cameraman, and he had to fix it as a prop, he didn't simply say, well, this is somebody else's Rolls Royce. He sat in it, and as Reverend Ike would say, he got full of the feeling. And in his heart, he said, I can see myself with a Rolls Royce. I can see myself on this style of living. And remember, one of the greatest lessons in mind science ever taught is taught by Flip Wilson the comic. What you see is what you get. I've never asked Tom how much money he has, and I wouldn't dare do that, but I can tell you he lives like a multimillionaire. He takes me to all of these expensive places and picks up the tab. Boy, it's good to have rich friends. Say that with me, somebody. It's good to have rich friends. I'll mention something here while he's here. You know, I even tell the young fellows in particular who come to me for counseling, I said, don't be hanging around out in the streets with people who are not trying to be anything. Don't hang around with the gang who is being nothing, doing nothing, and having nothing. I'm certainly very happy that you came here to be in New York with us on this program today, and I'm certain that your presence here and the people who watch you on television are going to be inspired. I think that you're a good example to the young people, and especially to the young men, of what self-direction means. Now, you're going to have to forgive me if I sound a little bit like an old-fashioned male for a moment. But you know, I still have an idea of what a man should be. I have a definite idea of what a man should be. I think that men should really have an extra portion of self-direction. And I love to see self-directed, successful, prosperous young men who know what they want to be, to do, and to have, and who are doing what they want to do and making a contribution to society. That's why I'm glad for Tom Cross here. When we see young men like Tom Cross, it lets us know that there's no excuse, there's no cop-out. If you believe in yourself, you can be what you want to be, you can do what you want to do, and you can have what you want to have. Thank you for being a good example for us, Tom. And I'm going to look forward to having you on television with us again.
Thank you.
Give him another great big hand.